Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stew again, and this time we're going to explore the topic of connecting Brightline West and California High-Speed Rail in Southern California. Previously, we looked at the High Desert Corridor between Apple Valley and Palmdale in the High Desert. This time we'll look at a connection between the cities of Rancho Cucamonga and Ontario, California. Rancho Cucamonga is a city of 175,040 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. It is significant to this concept because Brightline West's Southern California terminus is set to be located there at the current Metrolink 8th Street train station. Brightline West is a planned 218-mile high-speed rail line between Rancho Cucamonga and Las Vegas, Nevada. Ontario is located directly south of Rancho Cucamonga. Its population is about 185,000. It is significant because California High-Speed Rail's planned Phase 2 route runs through the city adjacent to Ontario International Airport. This is an important hub for the region and relief airport for LAX. California High-Speed Rail plans a station for this area whenever they manage to get around to it. California High-Speed Rail is a planned 800-mile system connecting all of the major California metros. The portion being constructed now is Phase 1 from San Francisco to Anaheim. There is unfortunately no timeline for when that will be finished. Whenever that does happen, the system is meant to be extended in a second phase to San Diego and Sacramento. Ontario is on the San Diego extension. It is 3 miles from 8th Street Station in Rancho Cucamonga to Ontario International Airport in Ontario. Unfortunately, a connector between these two hypothetical high-speed rail systems is not as simple as a line. As a guide, we're going to use a 2014 study by the San Bernardino Associated Governments that looked into connecting the two areas. I built my own approximation of that study using Unreal Engine 5, and you'll get to see what it might look like in 3D space. Before we do that, let's check out some features of this hypothetical route and some challenges. At some point, we're going to utilize a flood control corridor. Getting between that and the two rail corridors involved means some pretty tight curves. About as tight as high-speed rail is capable of with a radius around 600 feet. That means parts of this are going to be pretty slow. Next, because we'll be running next to active freight rail lines, we'll be dealing with freight rail spurs. Typical clearance over double-stacked freight is a little over 23 feet. This route would also cross 7 streets as well as Interstate 10. Typical clearance over a roadway is 16 feet. Because of these obstacles, I have the route being elevated the entire 4¼ miles. But enough talk about it, let's check it out. We'll start out with our California High-Speed Rail train pulling into the Brightline West Southern California station while a Brightline West train leaves for Las Vegas. Where is our California High-Speed Rail train coming from? Who knows? By the time something like this is built, high-speed rail could have access to many places in California, like San Bernardino. So let's assume we're following a high-speed train that runs between San Bernardino and San Diego in the year 2100. A word on these renderings: they are based on publicly available information, but they're not 100% accurate. They're meant mainly to show what something like this might be like in the future. The Brightline West station is elevated because it both needs to sit over the existing station and because it needs a viable path to Interstate 15, which Brightline West will use most of the way to Vegas. Coming out of the SoCal station to the west will be adjacent to planned transit-oriented development. Rancho Cucamonga calls this the Heart District. This is envisioned as a mixed-use transit village for the SoCal station. At 90 acres, this area could house around 1,200 people at some point in the future. As we continue on with a view of snow-capped Cucamonga Peak at 8,862 feet in the background, we'll do so in government-owned rail right-of-way. This is owned by the Southern California Regional Rail Authority, which operates the regional rail service Metrolink. This is one aspect of this route that could make things much easier in terms of planning and execution. Freights still operate here, so their operations would likely still be accommodated, but unlike many places in the US, freights would not be dictating terms. Most of the rail spurs in this area appear unused, but at least one still provides service. An alternative to elevated track here would be to electrify the adjacent SB line that Metrolink runs on. We'll discuss that possibility in a future video. At Center Avenue, the route will have to turn sharply south to connect with the Deer Creek flood control channel, claiming 4 small warehouses as victims. While convenient, the flood control channel is not straight and would not be fast. Clearance on either side of the channel is about 40 feet. A double-tracked right-of-way usually requires 45 feet at a minimum. This combined with cross streets means a grade-separated train through here would need to remain elevated. I have grade at a maximum of 2%, which translates to some viaduct being as high as adjacent warehouse roofs. A more aggressive profile could reduce viaduct height and price. However, even with the most aggressive profile reasonable, there is no chance of this route reaching ground level. One of the trickier crossings along the route is at 4th Street, which we would need to cross diagonally. Because of that, this could require a bridge as long as 400 feet. South of that, there is some breathing room as the route runs next to Cucamonga-Guasti Regional Park, flood control, and groundwater recharge basins. I have the route crossing over the channel here to gain a little speed, but many different specific routings are possible. Here we also pass next to a Topgolf with Cucamonga Peak in the background, and that's a beautiful sight if I ever saw one. I figure a top speed of about 60 miles per hour on this route. A train would be at that speed for about 1/3 of the 4¼ miles. As we turn south once again toward the airport, this curve would constrain speed to about 40 miles per hour. An apartment complex here proves a minor complication, but the other side of the channel looks more difficult as it merges with another channel coming in from the west. It's possible one of the apartment buildings might need to go. Overall destruction on the route would be minimal though. At this point, we will cross Interstate 10, which is a major Southern California freeway. It provides good access to Ontario International Airport and our future California High-Speed Rail Ontario station, both of which would be 1/3 of a mile from the freeway. Here we enter a very tight Y, which provides access to California High-Speed Rail track both to the west and east. This would hypothetically provide a connection between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, as well as Las Vegas and San Diego, given a completed Brightline West and California High-Speed Rail Phase 2. This curve is going to be about 20 miles per hour. Once out of the Y, we'll head for the hypothetical Ontario High-Speed Rail station, which I have located on the other side of Union Pacific right-of-way from the airport. The 2014 study has the station running straight to the airport terminals. Given California High-Speed Rail's need for speed, I think this is unlikely when including them in the mix. Distance between our station and Terminal 4 at the airport would be about 1,000 feet. As far as our Ontario station site goes, there are about 75 acres of adjacent land to develop. The area is mostly medium-density commercial and more is planned. That could change with the presence of a high-speed rail station, but it's also a long way out. Now that we're coming into the station, let's talk about travel time. Traversing the 4¼ miles with a stop on each end would take about 7 minutes for an average of 40 miles per hour. The speed is not the point. The connection and what it facilitates is. For California High-Speed Rail Phase 2 LA to San Diego, I'm going to use times I calculated in the video I did about that a while ago. Check it out. That would reasonably put Las Vegas to San Diego at 3 hours and 20 minutes. Las Vegas to LA Union Station would be about 2 hours 45 minutes. Both of those times assume a short layover in Rancho Cucamonga to switch from Brightline West. Las Vegas to LA would be about 10 minutes longer than an option through Palmdale instead. Then our hypothetical San Bernardino to San Diego route, that's 135 miles, which I have taking about an hour and 15 minutes, assuming San Bernardino to Rancho would be limited to 110 miles per hour. Something like that electrified is outlined in the state rail plan as long-term. 1 hour 15 minutes compares favorably to driving, which usually takes about 2 hours. Now that we have some good trip times to Las Vegas lined up, let's talk turkey. For this 4.25-mile regional connector potentially facilitating high-speed trips between Las Vegas and San Diego or Los Angeles and San Bernardino, I have a cost of $2.1 billion. Steep for what you get, but more reasonable as part of a bigger picture that may or may not take shape. But what do you think? Could something like this ever be worth $2.1 billion? Or is it worth it to help spread high-speed rail to all of the populated parts of Southern California? Let me know in the comments. Plenty more videos to come. I'm going to be aiming for one a week for the rest of the year and the holiday season. Make sure to check out that super thanks button below the video and also check out my railroad poster store and get yourself a holiday themed retro train poster to surprise Santa with when he comes down the chimney. Follow the link or use the QR code to get 30% off through the holidays. But that's all for now. Until next time, I'll see you on that big beautiful freeway.